Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a good one prepared for you today. This is going to be our quick picks and predictions for week 9 of the 2024 college football season. We are going to quickly go over every single top 25 matchup and break down and predict who we think is going to win, who's going to lose, and what the final score will be. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, drop them below and I will respond. Every single week, we go over every single college football game, both the top 25 ones and the non-top 25 ones, and we do our money line spreads and the over-unders, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you are a football fan, if you are a sports fan, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This is our quick picks and predictions, so we're going to be running through these games really quickly. The Thursday night game is in the books. We had Pitt beating Syracuse. We did pick Pitt to win that game. Let's go ahead and get started moving on to our next one. The very next one we have is our Friday night matchup. It's a late one at 10:30 p.m. on CBS. Number 17 Boise State coming in here at 5-1. They'll be playing 6-1 UNLV. There's a lot riding on this game. Whoever wins this game is in the driver's seat for the group of 5, positioning themselves perfectly for one of those final 12 playoff spots. If UNLV beats Boise, they would then catapult themselves back into the top 25, and they would be in the driver's seat for the group of 5. This is going to be a close game. This is two teams that are scoring in the 40s. Both teams have top 10 offenses. Right now, Boise is the favorite, 3.5-point favorite. The over-under here is 64.5. The secret weapon they have is they have Ashton Jeanty, the best running back in the entire country. The front runner probably right now for the Heisman Trophy. Boise State, they're averaging 46.8 per game. They throw for 237. They run for 290 yards, one of the top 10 rushing teams in the country. When you run the ball like that, you suck up clock, and their defense is giving up 26.2. But they do give up 308 passing yards per game. There will be opportunities for UNLV to be able to vertically push the ball down the field. For UNLV, they're averaging 43.6 per game. They have Williams coming in for Sluka. He's closing in on 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks, and they are giving up 22.6. But they also give up 300 passing yards, so there will be opportunities for Boise State to score here. This game is going to potentially be a shootout. I have Boise State and their running game making the difference second half. They win this one 38-28. And moving on to our Saturday games at 12 p.m., you have some Big Ten on Big Ten play on Fox. 5-2 Nebraska coming off of getting throttled by Indiana. They'll be playing 5-1 number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes coming off the bye week. Previously to that, they lost that close one to number 1 Oregon. Right now, the Buckeyes heavy favorites, 96.6. They are 20-point favorites. That spread's been moving up and down the whole week. Do not underestimate Nebraska's defense, and the over-under here is 48.5. This is going to be a really good game. So you have Dylan Raiola on one side closing in on 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 6 picks. And for the Buckeyes, the number 3 overall roster, led by Will Howard, closing in on 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Looking at Nebraska, they average 25 points a game. They throw for 259. They run for 127. A solid top 20 defense, giving up 17.7 points a game. For the Buckeyes, this team is loaded. Top 10 offense, the number 1 defense. Right now, they're averaging 43.5 points a game. They throw for 300.3. They run for 208.7. Probably the best 1-2 running back room in the nation right now. They're only giving up 11 points per game. They have the best defense in the nation right now. It's not even close. They have a great defensive line, only giving up 86 yards on the ground per game. If you want to beat the Buckeyes, you have to do so vertically through the air. Looking at their game, they have Howard, Junkins, Henderson, Smith, Egbuka, multiple weapons, multiple ways they can beat you. The game might be close for the first 2 quarters, but it's hard to stay with the Buckeyes' physicality for 4 quarters. They pull it out, 38-17. The next one's one of our top 25 on top 25 matchups at 12 p.m. on ABC. Number 12, Notre Dame, 6-1. They have a great defense. They'll be playing number 24, Navy, 6-0. Right now, Notre Dame, 91.9% chance to win this game. They are 13.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 51.5. Looking at Notre Dame, obviously, they have a top 10 defense. They have Freeman. They have Golden. They have Denbrock. Riley Leonard is not a good passer, has never been a good passer, but one thing he can do is scramble. He can run. He's closing in on 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. But Navy has Horvath. He's a secret weapon. He does everything. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's closing in on 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick, and he's also the team's leading rusher. Notre Dame right now, they are averaging 34.6 per game. They throw for 197. They run for 209.6. One thing they do is they play great defense, and they can run the ball. Denbrock, keep the ball on the ground, suck up clock, Navy has to match you for 4 quarters physicality-wise, and they're only giving up 11.9 points a game. For Navy, they can score. They're averaging 44.8, throwing for 164, running for 275. This isn't the triple option team. They run the triple option, and they're also throwing the ball. A completely different Navy team. They have the potential upset here. If they're able to outscore Notre Dame, they could pull the upset here, but that's easier said than done. You have to compete with Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage for 4 quarters. They have Love. They have Leonard. Keep the ball on the ground. The game is yours. I have Notre Dame pulling it out in the 4th quarter, winning this one 33-20. The next matchup at 12 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, 4-3 Washington Huskies. Do not sleep on them. They have a top 20 defense, a very physical team with a veteran quarterback. They'll be playing number 13 Indiana, 7-0. Props to Indiana. They've come out of nowhere. They are undefeated this season. They have an 83.9% chance to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 54.5. Washington, they're being led by Will Rogers, closing in on 1,900 yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. They're averaging 24.1 points a game. They throw for 308. They run for 159. Their biggest issue has been punching it in the red zone. They have to get touchdowns when they drive down to the red zone, but a solid defense giving up 17 points a game. I originally had Washington winning this one, but I have flipped. The main reason that I flipped is Washington's giving up 143 yards on the ground per game. For Indiana, their leading quarterback, Rourke, he is out. He did hurt his game this past weekend, so they're going to be going with Jackson. Jackson did just perfectly filling in, but Washington's had an entire week to prepare for him. How does that affect the game plan for Cignetti? Right now, Indiana has the number 2 offense in the nation. They average 48.7 points a game. They throw for 316.6. They run for 202.4. That's the saving grace to me. Washington gives up yards on the ground. Indiana can successfully run the ball. They're going to keep the ball in the running back's hands, suck up clock, run it downhill. Jacksonville just has to manage the game, and their defense is only giving up 13.7 points per game. In the Big Ten, they have the playmakers. They have Jackson. They have Ellison. They have Surratt. I have Indiana pulling out a close one here, winning this one 23-20. And then at 12 p.m. on ESPN, 4-3 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's completely fallen off the rails. It all hinges around their offense. They cannot get first downs. They cannot get touchdowns. Brent Venables has a lot of things that he needs to work on this offseason, especially at the quarterback position. They'll be playing number 18 Ole Miss at 5-2. They've dropped 2 of their last 3. But everything is still in front of them right now. They can still win out and still potentially make the SEC championship and thus potentially the playoffs. Right now, Ole Miss has an 88% chance to win this game. 20-point favorites, massive spread for an in-conference game. The over-under here is 48.5. For Oklahoma, they're just shuffling in quarterbacks, whether it's Jackson Arnold, Haskins. They don't have anyone cemented at the quarterback position. That's going to be a massive issue versus the Ole Miss difference. They're averaging 22.1 points a game, throwing for 202, running for 112.7. A solid defense under Brent Venables. They are top 10 in sacks, giving up 21.3 points a game. But Ole Miss, they have the weapons, number 1 transfer portal class. They have Jackson Dart here closing in on 2,400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. They average 41.4 points a game. That's a top 15 offense. They throw for 373.7. They run for 200.6 yards per game. They're just under 600 yards on offense every game, and they have a top 10 defense, only giving up 10.6 points a game. They have the playmakers. Arnold, Dart, Parrish Jr. Trey Harris is closing in on 1,000 yards through just 7 games. They're putting up video game numbers. They should be able to cruise here, but Oklahoma's defense may keep it close early on, but Ole Miss wins it 34-17. And then at 3:30 p.m. on CBS, the new number 1 team we have playing, number 20, the Fighting Illini at 6-1, coming off that win versus Michigan. They'll be playing number 1 Oregon Ducks, 7-0, undefeated. Right now, Oregon has a 91.5% chance to win this game. Don't sleep on Illinois. They have a great defense that could keep them in this game on the road. But Oregon, heavy favorite here, 21.5-point favorite. That is also a massive spread for a ranked on ranked in-conference game. The over-under here is 54.5 for the Fighting Illini. This is a team that Michigan was last season. They have a top 20 defense, very physical team built to compete at the line of scrimmage. This is Brent Bielema's team, very physical, Well, the one thing they have that Michigan doesn't is they actually have a quarterback who can throw a spiral. They have Luke Altmaier closing in on 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, only one pick so far. They average 29.6. They throw for 237.4. They run for 146. And elite defense giving up 18.1 points a game. But the Ducks, they have the number 5 overall roster. They have Dylan Gabriel, who was the preseason Heisman frontrunner. He's now put himself back in the top 3 for the Heisman right now, closing in on 2,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 picks. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 10 defense. They're averaging 34.6 points a game, throwing for 311.3, running for 158.3. Their offensive line has been getting better every single week since their week 1 performance, and they have an elite defense giving up 16.6 points a game. They have the playmakers. They have Gabriel, James, Johnson, Stewart. I have the Ducks cruising here, winning this one 37-18. And then at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 11 BYU 7-0. They are actually the underdogs here versus 3-4 UCF. Right now, the Knights have a 54.5% chance to win this game. They're 3-4, but they are the Vegas favorites, 2.5-point favorites. The over/under is 55.5. This is a very tough game because BYU is 7-0, number 11, and they are the underdogs on the road versus UCF. The reason that is because UCF almost beat Iowa State last weekend, but they still lost the game. For BYU, props to them. They've come out of nowhere this season. They have Retzlaff at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,700 yards, 16 touchdowns, 7 picks. The main thing for them, they live off of turnovers. If the Knights do not give up turnovers, how does BYU respond? They've made a living off of the short field, getting turnovers, only having to drive 40 to 50 yards. But what happened if you force them into having to play a clean game? Right now, they're averaging 34.9. They throw for 249.7. They run for 156.6. A top 20 defense right now, giving up 19 points a game. And for UCF, under Gus Malzahn, they are a run-heavy team, but they have no quarterback right now. So they've been benching KJ Jefferson. They've had Brown. They've been shuffling quarterbacks. But one thing they do have is they have RJ Harvey. He's a top 10 running back in the nation, closing in on 900 rushing yards. They're going to keep the ball in his hands. They're averaging 31.3, throwing for 201, running for 280. They can move the ball, but they've had issues punching it in once they get to the red zone, because once you get to the red zone and that field gets small, you need a passing attack to open up the run game. They haven't had that. They're giving up 25.7. So UCF is the favorites versus BYU. BYU plays very close games. I have BYU pulling it off, technically getting the upset here, winning this one 33-26. And then we have another top 25 on top 25 SEC matchup on ABC at 3:30. We have number 21 Missouri Tigers at 6-1 versus number 15 Alabama coming in at 5-2. Bama has a 82.2% chance to win this game. They are 17-point favorites. This line has been moving a lot. Just yesterday, this line was 13. Now it's 17. The over/under is 51.5. For Missouri, they have that one loss to the Aggies, but this is a very good team. They have a top 20 overall roster, top 20 offense, top 20 defense. If they come into this game, they are led by Cook, closing in on 1,600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Came out of the hospital this past weekend, led his team to victory in the fourth quarter. They're averaging 31.7, throwing for 261.7, running for 172.3. Very balanced and a really good physical defense, giving up 15.6. For Alabama, they are led by Jalen Miller. They are way too Milrow-focused under Kalen DeBoer. He's having to do too much. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. A lot of turnovers the last few games. They are averaging 38.1, throwing for 276.6, running for 164.3. They have the worst statistical defense of a Alabama's team since 2004, giving up 21.3 points per game. They have to tighten up there. They have not been dominating at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They can't get push on the O-line, and they can't get penetration on the D-line. Something has to change there. Do not sleep on the Tigers, though. Very talented team. They have Cook. They have Noel, Weiss Jr., Burden. They have great playmakers. Alabama will give up points, especially running as well as in the secondary, but they still have Milrow, Miller, Williams. Their big play ability should make the difference here. I have Bama pulling this one out, winning it 34-20. And then another SEC top 25 on top 25 matchup at 4:15. Number 5 Texas Longhorns 6-1, coming off of that awful performance versus the Georgia Bulldogs. They'll be playing number 25 Vanderbilt, finally ranked. They sit at 5-2. Texas has a 90.6% chance to win this game. 18.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 51.5. Quinn Ewers has missed a lot of time. There's no quarterback controversy. He should be getting the nod to start this game. He's closing in on 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. Vanderbilt has do everything Diego Pavia, closing in on 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 picks. He also leads the team in rushing yards. Right now is closing in on 500 yards on the ground as well. Texas's D-line, they're going to look to bottle him up, keep him in the pocket, force him to have to beat them vertically through the air, and that's easier said than done. Texas, right now, they're averaging 39.1 points a game. They have the number 3 overall roster. They throw for 308.1 run. They run for 166.1. They're only giving up 9.7 points a game. That's top 5 in the nation right now. If they get turnovers, they get penetration on defense. Vanderbilt, they're giving up 33.1. Throwing for 214.4, running for 162, and their defense is giving up 22.1. Texas has the playmakers. Ewers, Wisner, Bond should be fully healthy here. Pavia can't do everything. Texas will not sleep on Vanderbilt like Alabama did. Texas pulls it out 38-17. They definitely want to win this game handily. They want to show that they're rebounding from that awful loss to the Georgia Bulldogs at home. And then at 7 p.m., we have one of our best in-state rivalries on ESPN. 1-6 Florida State started out the season top 10, and now they have to win out just to make a bowl game. They'll be playing number 6, 7-0 undefeated Miami Hurricanes. Right now, the Hurricanes have a 91.4% chance to win this game. Very big spread here for a rivalry game. They are 21-point favorites. The over-under is 54.5. For Florida State, they have massive offensive issues. They've been shuffling quarterbacks. They have DJU, Beck. No matter who they start at the quarterback position, they are the second to lowest scoring team in the nation right now. They're only averaging 15 points a game. They have yet to score over 21 points this entire season. They throw for 220. They run for 72.9. They have 0 rushing game. It's hard to run on Miami. You have to beat them vertically through the air. Thankfully for Florida State, Miami's weakness is their secondary. There will be yardage to have vertically throwing the ball down the field, but will Florida State have time to be able to throw the ball down the field? They are giving up 210 through the air, 172 on the ground. Miami will be able to run the ball on Florida State. Everybody can. Right now, Miami, they are led by Cameron Ward, who right now is number 2 for the Heisman, closing in on 2,600 yards. Leads the nation in passing, leads the nation in touchdowns with 24, and he has 5 picks. The number 1 scoring team in the country, averaging 48.3. They average 400.6 yards through the air, 188.9 on the ground. Their defense is giving up 22.6. They have the playmakers, Ward, Martinez, Fletcher, Lyle, Restrepo, Arroyo, Williams. Multiple ways they can beat you. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. They have the defense. Florida State's going to have a lot of issues trying to keep up with them score for score. Miami wins it 45-17. And then at 7:30 p.m. on NBC, number 3 Penn State undefeated 6-0 versus 5-2 Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin has been really playing good the last 3 weeks because they've gotten back to Badgers football, lining up, running the ball downhill. Luke Fickell has a great squad here. Phil Longo calling great running plays right now. They've gotten away from the pass, and that's actually perfectly fine because they have a good ground game. Right now, Penn State's 6.5-point favorites. Over-unders 47.5. Penn State, Franklin, they have Drew Waller closing in on 1,500 yards. He has 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. They have a new offensive scheme. It is working very well for this team. They average 34.2, and they have a top 10 defense, only giving up 14.5 points a game. They also have one of the best 1-2 running back combos in the nation. They have Singleton. They have Allen. They are going to line up. They're going to run downhill right at Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they're averaging 29 points a game, but they also have a top 20 defense, giving up 17.6. It's their running game with Walker that's made a difference here, but it's going to be really hard to run on Penn State. Right now, they're only giving up 94.8 yards on the ground. That makes a difference is Penn State's defense. They win this one 27-20. And then at 7:30 p.m. on ABC, another ranked-on-ranked SEC game. Number 8 LSU 6-1 versus number 14 Texas A&M Aggies 6-1. LSU's won 6 straight games since their loss to the Trojans. The Aggies have won 6 straight games since their loss to Notre Dame. Right now, the Aggies are the favorites. 52.8% chance to win this game. 2.5-point favorites. Over-under is 52.5. LSU, one of the best passing teams in the country. The defense under Blake Baker has been playing really well for the last 3-4 weeks. Of course, this is a Brian Kelly-led team. They will be disciplined. They're averaging 34.1 points a game. Nussmeier at quarterback closing in on 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. They throw for 326 per game. They run for 128. Their defense playing really good, giving up 20.6, and they're top 10 in quarterback pressure right now. They're going to try to bottle up the Aggies, force them to have to run the ball, but the Aggies run the ball really well. Issue has been swapping quarterbacks, Reed, Wegman. Wegman plays really great. Then the next week, he doesn't play well. Which version of Wegman shows up? Right now, they're averaging 31.4. They throw for 192, but they're running for 219 yards per game. The Aggies can run the ball with success, but will they be able to suck up enough clock to keep the Tigers off the field? They have a top 20 defense averaging 17.7. Right now, the Aggies and Moss running the ball. I had them winning the game based off their running game, but I think they're going to have issues keeping up blow for blow with the Tigers. I have LSU technically getting the upset here, Vegas-wise, winning this one 30-27. And then at 8 p.m. on ESPN2, 2-5 Kansas versus number 16, 6-1 Kansas State. Kansas State 75% chance to win this game, 10-point favorites. That's a really big spread for an in-state rivalry game. Kansas is a very talented team. A lot of people had them picked to win the Big 12. They've completely fallen off the rails this season, though. Jalen Daniels at the quarterback position. He's finally healthy this season, and he's having the worst year of his career, closing in on 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. They can still move the ball. They're averaging 30.4 points a game, giving up 24 points per game. Kansas State, very balanced team. They can throw it. They can run it. They're led by Avery Johnson, closing in on 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. The highest recruited player in Kansas State history, and he's mobile. And when he runs with purpose, gets big pickups on the ground. They're averaging 33.3. They throw for 214. They run for 222.9. They're giving up 20.6 points a game. Their biggest issue is they give up 275 through the air. There will be opportunities for Kansas to throw the ball. They will not be able to run the ball. They only give up 83.1 yards on the ground. Kansas does have Devin Neal, top 10 running back, closing in on 700 yards, but Kansas State has the better running game. They have Johnson. They have DJ Giddens, a top 5 back, closing in on 900 yards, and they have Brown at wide receiver. He makes the big-time catches in the big-time moments. Kansas State wins this one 28-23. And our final game for Week 9 on the ACC Network at 8 p.m., number 22, SMU 6-1. Easy schedule this season. They don't play Clemson. They don't play Miami. They're an underdog to potentially make the ACC championship and thus potentially the playoffs. They'll be playing 6-1 Duke. Duke's come out of nowhere this season. Props to Manny Diaz. This is a really competitive team with a top 20 defense. If they beat SMU, they will be in the top 25 next week. But the Mustangs are a 75.8% chance to win this game. 11.5 point favorites. Over under here is 48.5. Jennings has done great at the quarterback position, filling in for Stone. He's closing in on 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 picks. But it's his mobility that completely changes the game here. They're averaging 40.7 points a game, throwing for 248, running for 199.6, and a great defense, a top 25 defense, giving up 20.6 points a game. Duke has the Texas transfer Murphy at quarterback, closing in on 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. They average 25.9 points a game, but it's their defense. They only give up 17.3 points a game. They're top 20 in sacks, top 20 in quarterback pressures. They're going to make it difficult for the Mustangs to move the ball, but still, they have Jennings, they have Smith, they have Malin. I have them winning this one 34-20. Too many playmakers on the field. So that's our breakdown. That's our quick picks and predictions for all of our top 25 Week 9 matchups. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, leave them below and I will respond. Thank you.